Welcome to the World Chess Championship 2014. Magnus Carlsen, defending world champion from Norway, rated 2863. Highest rating ever in the history of chess. Looking to defend his title. Magnus won it last year from former world champion Vishy Anand, seen here, ex-world champion from India. Vishy's looking for revenge. It's going to be a great match. Stay tuned for the games. Hi folks, John Cordisco back again. Here we are. This is a great game. Great game. Game 1 of the World Chess Championship 2014. Defending champion Magnus Carlsen as black. And Vishy Anand, former world champion who lost his title to Magnus, is white. This is a great game. This is a great start. If this is just the beginning of this match, look forward to a lot of good stuff. I want to mention at the very end of the video there's going to be a press conference between Vishy and Magnus. Can't hear the question. People are asking the questions too good, but it's still an interesting press conference. Vishy starts out with d4. He's an e4 player, so we're looking for a fight already. It's going to be an exchange Grunfeld. Let's go through it. C takes, knight takes. Excuse me, bishop d2, bishop g7, typical Grunfeld stuff. Hit the knight, knight takes, bishop takes. Interesting though, pawn takes is probably what I would do, and that's why I'm not playing for the World Championship, but b takes is the correct move. Castles, queen d2. Let's take our breath here for a minute. This is a typical Grunfeld structure. Interesting though, the computer says unusual white 7th moves in line with knight to f3. So it's not uncommon this position, but it's not very common either, is my interpretation of it. Knight to c6. Now that computer did that. It's showing that black's ganging up on the d4 pawn. Pretty funny. Knight to f3 to guard it. Bishop g4. d5. Now this is all theory because every single move is the computer suggested. Bishop takes, king takes, pawn takes, knight to e5. All of this obviously is theory. Because every single move so far. Now this is where I was a little surprised, frankly. Computer calls for this move, but a close second is queen to c3. Which is going now. The third move, actually right now, look at the computer, the move that Vishy made isn't on here at all. And this must have been part of his preparation. Those of you who are wondering, it's a tiny, minuscule advantage for white right now. Even though white looks really good right here. Vishy decides to castle long. Now what to do here? And this is where I watched it. By the way, if you go on livestream.com and punch it in the search on top, FIDE World Championship, you can see the entire replay of this round and probably all the rounds. So if you're interested in that and want to go the whole shot or skip around in the video, feel free, livestream.com. What to do. And I remember watching the video here. I came on at 7 a.m. East Coast time. I live on the East Coast of the United States in upstate New York. So I watched it, kind of a delay type thing. I didn't know what the result was, so it might as well have been live for me. And this is where Magnus took a long time. A real long time. And Peter's fiddler, and I forgot the young lady's name that was with him, was really trying to figure out what to do next. And Magnus did make the computer move. C6. Now it starts to get tough. Because I think Vishy thought he was okay. Now the computer shows it is pretty close the whole time, but it looks very advantageous. It's much easier to play white here. And Magnus was probably behind a good 20 minutes, a half an hour on time. 40 moves is the cutoff for the next time control. And Vishy does make the right move. It seems counterproductive. Queen to c3. Now, a lot of us would not want to put the queen and the king on that file. After pawn takes, But pawn takes isn't the correct move. Magnus found the correct move. He's got to guard the knight, of course, or move the king, and he loses the knight. So he has to go f6. All right, that's a given. Now, what do you do now? And this is where I think Vichy made an outstanding move. Outstanding move. Stop the video now and try to figure out what is a good move for black, or excuse me, for white in this situation. See what you can come up with and see if you pick Vichy's move. Now the computer likes f4, chasing the knight off. And then that goes to f7, d takes, c6. But I like Vichy's move better. Bishop h3. Now look at the squares this covers. Some key squares here, here, and here. And especially here. You're going to see that's an important square to cover for Anand. C takes, E takes. Now the rook can't go to c8. And it controls some key squares. Knight to f7. Right now, tiny advantage for white. Tiny. If he had gone b5 instead, kicks the knight, rook d4, and that's a little advantage for black, so it wasn't really the way to go. f4, and again, Carlsen and Anand both, but in this case Carlsen picks the computer move, queen to d6. Excellent move, excellent move. There's a lot of things. Keeps an eye on this pawn, hitting this pawn here, forcing white to guard it, and that's also the computer move. Queen to d2, but it likes queen to d4 instead. Now, white's king's a little open right now. It seems like black's king's a lot safer. We're going to have to see how this works out. Rook a to d8, hitting the pawn twice. King to b1 was a choice, I think. And a close second was bishop b6. And that's what Anand did. It's amazing to me as I go through this game, and I already went through it myself, watched it on the video, and had the computer analyze it. And there's very, very few moves that the computer doesn't agree on both sides. This is the kind of caliber of play we're looking at here. Now, I think white had at least a psychological advantage there for a while. Maybe not so much in the computer, but we're not playing computers. You're playing another human. And you can tell Magnus was uncomfortable. And right around in here, I think Vichy just loses his psychological grips, for lack of a better term. Queen to b6, the computer move. Computer likes queen takes b6. Now I thought to myself, you know, Anand's trying to go for blood here. He's trying to draw first blood, which is really important in a match here. Queen takes b6, rook he1 are the two choices on the computer, and queen to e3. Anand does none of those. He goes queen to d2. Now, it's a tiny mistake, nothing really serious, maybe a fifth of a pawn. It's a tiny, minuscule advantage for black now on the computer. And this is where I think Vichy starts to lose his grip a little bit. Rook to d6. Now, one of the problems with, and I do it all the time here, of course, on my videos, is use the computer off screen. You get an idea where each side is ahead. But computers can defend like crazy, unbelievably well, of course, because there's no emotion involved. And so it's a little bit tougher for humans when they get down to find the right moves. Now, computer likes h4 for white. Vichy goes rook to e1. Minuscule mistake. And that's where I think, that, you know, they asked him in the press conference where he thought he went wrong. And I'm not saying which side's going to win here. You'll see at the end. But I think it was a tiny little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a minuscule amount there. And I think that's where Vichy, you couldn't pin it down because it happened gradually. I call it the frog in the water thing, where you put a frog in some cold water and turn on the heat. You really don't notice it's getting warm because you're already in it. And slowly but surely the heat gets turned up. Knight to d8. And the computer likes that move as well. Hitting the bishop, of course. F5. Bring the bishop back to H3 was the computer's choice. Or C8 or G4. C8's an interesting choice. But he went F5. Knight takes. Now, what would you guys take with? Can't take with the D pawn, of course, because you lose the queen. You take with the pawn, or do you take with a rook? Which one do you do? And of course, Vishy makes the right move. Rook takes C6. Computer likes rook to C8 check. Or rook takes E6, F takes E6, queen to C5 check. But it's interesting, Magnus picked none of those. He picked queen takes C7, excuse me, queen to C7 check. King moves. Rook to C8, a natural human move. Computer like rook to D8, but who can resist doubling up right on the white king? I couldn't. Rook D to E1. Now he's threatening, of course, to win the pawn and the queen. Black has to react. And of course he does. He takes. Again, we ask the question, what do you take with the rook, the D pawn, or the F pawn? And of course, Vishy makes the right choice. You take with the rook. Nice outpost for that rook, by the way. Rook to D8. Queen to E3. Now here's a free pawn, right? Well, not really. Rook takes, wins the queen. He has to guard the pawn. And this is an interesting part of the game too, the position I should say. Computer likes F takes G6, H takes G6, H4. And that's some of the scenarios that Peter Schindler and the young lady they were commentating, I forget her name, were making. And I think this part of the game, Vishy thought he was doing quite well. Computer shows it even, but psychologically I think he was doing quite well, because you can see Magnus wasn't happy at all. And he slowly got it now where he's now on the defensive a little bit. And he doesn't like the turn of events. And this is a sign of a great player. When you recover from this psychologically and find just the right moves to keep you in the game. Decided to go at D6. Now the computer didn't like that. It didn't hate it, but didn't really care for it much. E takes. F takes G6. The computer still likes that. But he played queen to D4. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Of course, that's a major threat, of course. Queen takes the pawn here. And you're in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. You're going to get mated. Rook to F7. Not only move, but damn near. F takes finally, H takes. Rook takes. Tiny, tiny advantage now for black. We'll call it an even game. Now this is where Magnus is notorious for taking stagnant positions like this, or even positions, and just slowly grinding you down. Slowly grinding you into making a mistake. Let's see how Vishy does. Magnus goes A6. I think that was just a little wait and see move. Plus it moves the pawn up a little closer. A3. Queen to A5. Now figuring all the queen attacks and everything else, especially when you have isolated pawns like Vishy does in F and G, it's got to be murderous. Murderous. Decides to get closer. Move that pawn up closer to the white king. Help protect it as well. Queen to H5. And the computer, like queen to F5 check. And then king to A2. Queen to H5. Queen to D2. Guarding both the pawns. Nice. Very nice. That rook's kind of stuck on F7 guarding the king. Queen to C5. Rook to d5. Queen moves. Rook to d7. Now I want to mention this is... Computer shows it very close. Money to advantage for black. But here's the problem. You're not playing a computer. And you're Vichy. And you just lost your championship not too long ago to Magnus. And you're white. And you had a pretty good position. And now you're on the defensive. Computers can defend like crazy. They can defend beautifully. But we're humans. And he's thinking to himself, I have to find exactly the right move. Exactly the right move. Or I'll just get crushed. Queen to c6. Rook to d6. Queen to e4. Now we're on move 37. We're getting close to the time control. King to a1 or king to a2. Vichy decides king to a2 is fine. Rook to e7. This is where it gets tough. And this is where the computers are really worthless here because there's just so many things to calculate. So many things to do. For those of you that were wondering, you know, there's rook here, queen checks here, all kinds of nuances here. And of course, this queen is kind of stuck babysitting these two pawns. And you've got to be able to attack and defend at the same time. Good luck with that. That's why Vichy is former world champion and we're not. Queen to c1, a5, queen f1, a4. And during the press conference here, this is where Vichy started to get nervous. He thought maybe the game was slipping away on him. And he was a little concerned. Tiny advantage on the computer. It doesn't really mean much because for those of us that play chess, when we're getting pressed, we can feel it physically and psychologically. And it's uncomfortable. I hate it. Rook to d1. Rook comes back. Queen to c2. Now he's looking, of course, to bring his rook down here. Hit this pawn. Rook to d4. Rook to e2. This looks dangerous, right? Of course, he brings the rook over, attacking the b pawn, black's b pawn, and defending his b2 pawn as well. And the neat trick is it guards this square here from the check. b5 has to do it. Now you see now where rook takes pawn loses to rook checks. And then when the king moves, it's over. This is the move I think Vichy found. And it's a really, really hard move to find. Queen to h1. Outstanding. Outstanding. This draws the game. Now it's all zeros. We're just going to go through the next few moves here. Queen to d5. Rook to e1. Threatening mate. Now queen takes h2. What happens is queen e2, queen takes, check, queen b3, queen takes, king takes. Good luck with that. I'll play white all day in here. After rook to e1, queen checks, king to h6, queen h3 check, king to g7, and so on, and so on, and so on. And they called it a draw. I thought it was a hell of a game. All kinds of possibilities. A couple of points there. This was incredibly complicated. Both sides of pawns, queens on the board and rooks. It's mind-boggling trying to figure out the combinations. But I think I give Vichy a lot of credit. You could tell he was cranking out the moves quick at the beginning, and then when things started to go a little bit against him, he took his time. He didn't panic. He didn't let his emotions get the best of him, and he found a way to draw the game. I think it was a great result for both sides. Magnus even said, of course, I'm black, and I get a half a point. I'm okay. And Vichy, I think, if he had lost this game, the match was over. That's just my personal opinion. But he didn't. So this is game one of the World Championship rematch between Magnus Carlsen and Vishy Anand. I hope you enjoyed it. If you don't watch any of the videos through the entire round, the whole 5-6 hours, go to livestream.com and in the search on top punch in FIDE World Championship and you'll click on one of them. You'll see all the different rounds listed and the press conferences and the opening ceremony and that kind of thing. So this is what chess is all about, folks. World-class players battling it out. Anyway, I want you all to remember, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.
Dear chess fans all around the world, we have the first press conference after the first round. The game finished in a draw. And I would like to ask players, how did they feel today playing the first game at the beginning?
It was a little bit tentative at the start. I think at some point neither of us were playing particularly confidently, but somehow I managed to get out of a slightly difficult position, and I even was slightly better. And then, yeah, probably there was no way to win, but at least it was a good start.
Yeah, I think somewhere. I mean, to be honest, this position shouldn't require so much work, to put it mildly, or more to the point this, but somehow some imperceptibly careless moves, and then it started to get very annoying. I mean, I was down to about 3 minutes, so allowing pawn to a4 also didn't help. But then I'm very happy that I calculated this idea, rook d4, and both rook moves I have rook b4. Well, actually, yeah, for rook e3 we were discussing rook d7, king h6, rook takes b7, rook b3. Well, I think you should have tried this. After rook e2, rook b4, b5, I remembered this move. This is very important because I need to go somewhere where I will take away all the light squares on d5 and so on. And here he doesn't have time to get to the 8th because I'll go queen b7, a8, and so after queen h1, yeah, and then queen d5. But I think once you find queen h1, it's fairly simple.
Okay, so I would like to ask. I would like to start from the very beginning. Today, Vishy, you played d4. Actually, before this move, the advisor of Mr. Putin, he chose the move e4. So, what actually happened? Can you explain at this point?
No, basically, the arbiter said the best thing would be for the transmission that the guest of honor would just make a move, and then we'd restart, and that's what happened.
So you didn't like e4, so you preferred to play something else?
No, the idea was for him to make one move, and then for me to make my own.
Yeah. And after that, normally in Chennai, people, when you play d4, started to applaud. Did you miss this moment? Did you remember it?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Okay, so concerning the game, what was actually particularly the moment when you felt that things are going wrong?
Like I said, somewhere between move, 34 to pick a number, and the time control, I got into a spot of bother, but I can't pinpoint the exact moment.
Yeah. So question to Magnus, were you surprised by the opening choice today, and how did it go for you? Starting from the opening a little bit, can you point out some particular moments?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect. So, but I thought this idea with bishop h3 was nice. I didn't really expect that. Just taking away the square from the rook, and then it's not so easy to get out. But I think the key afterwards is that if I get to exchange queens, even even under bad circumstances, that's an achievement for me, and then I should be holding fairly simply. And then afterwards, I didn't particularly think of playing for an advantage. I just wanted to consolidate, and obviously after that, when he started playing, certainly I was trying for more, but I don't know if there was anything real. But I mean, certainly this needs to be checked, the opening.
Yeah. Vishy, there were many comments of different grandmasters today in Twitter, and for example, Timur Rajabov, he was guessing that you might mixed up the moves in the opening when you played Long Castle. Does he have a point?
No, I cannot really get into details, but no, I didn't mix up my moves.
Okay. Thank you. So do we have questions, please?
Is it more difficult playing each other this time? The rematch element of this more difficult psychologically or otherwise in preparation?
I don't see the point of keeping that in the background. I think there will be enough problems in this match to deal with without adding that. So at least it's not something I'm trying to reflect on.
Magnus?
Yeah, me too. I mean, what happened in the last match is in the past, and I agree with Vishy. There are going to be plenty of difficult and critical moments in this one, so no point in dwelling in the past.
Other questions, please? Actually, we have microphones. Okay, please.
Not particularly. I was getting a little bit optimistic at some point when he found this idea with Rook b4, Queen h1. I didn't see a way to win. If there was a win, please tell. But I mean, I didn't see it. I thought I had some chances to press. I tried the best I could, but I couldn't find anything. So it's okay by me. I'm not disappointed at all.
But I had white.
Sorry, with white, I'm sorry.
How
to defend white, do you see this something of a psychological challenge today? And yeah, how did you feel handle that?
I mean, these days you don't get a huge advantage with white in every game. There are just, I think I was a bit wobbly for a few moves, but then I got back on track, and well, I'm slightly relieved because when I was getting wobbly and when that pawn came to a4 for a moment, I thought I might be getting into some trouble. So.
Okay. Do we have questions to the players? Yes, please.
Yeah, why not? Half a point with black is good, and I even had a little bit of pressure, so I think it's a good start. You always prefer to win, but I didn't see any particular chances, so all good so far.
What can you say about yesterday's opening ceremony? Did you like the procedure of drawing of lots and the concert?
Well, it was a bit better this time. I remember once doing the chess Oscars in '98. We had a magician, but he stole my watch. I mean, he came and he pretended to play with both of us, and then suddenly, next thing you know, at the end of the ceremony, he gives us back our watches. At least this time, it was very much more straightforward. But I liked the music as well. So it was a good opening ceremony.
Well, in general, I'm more comfortable playing chess, so happy to be doing that now.
Actually, I think this time you don't carry your watches, so maybe for the opening ceremony, did you? Oh, you have. Okay, still they are in the place. Please.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I just didn't. I didn't even notice it at some point.
Can you speak more loudly because?
I wasn't particularly nervous actually, but it always takes few moves to get into the flow of the game. But I felt by let's say 20 moves that I was calculating normally, and everything was fine. A little bit, but you have to play something.
Okay. Any other question? Please.